Well, Benny Johnson had a wonderful opportunity to speak about the gospel, to proclaim the work of Christ, to proclaim how one person is able to enter heaven, but he let this happen.
President Trump saying he's not sure he's heaven bound.
Well, Ben, it's hard to believe that, I finally think the siege was worth it, if that makes sense, right? Everything they did to us was worth it yesterday when I saw what he did. And make no mistake, he is heaven bound. He's probably too humble in a certain way to say that. I could say that as a son, because I've seen the hand of God on him for a very long time, guiding him through the most unthinkable, dark process. And then we get to a day like yesterday, which is, was so beautiful. But he is heaven bound. And I can tell you, maybe the one thing he does that might have, influenced heaven is, I think there's a lot less people going to heaven, meaning they're going to heaven slower because he stopped the death and destruction around the world. Hopefully he slowed down the journey to heaven for a lot of people, in that they'll spend more time on this earth and they'll get there. But they won't get there for a number of years because he stopped, innocent young kids from absolutely getting run through a meat grinder unnecessarily, for no reason whatsoever. And that in itself will get my father to heaven. And believe me, if he wasn't heaven bound, he wouldn't have been alive after Butler. If he wasn't heaven bound, that flag wouldn't have folded up like a perfect angel right above his head. If he wasn't heaven bound, if he wasn't meant for this purpose, he wouldn't have beaten Hillary. We wouldn't have beaten Hillary. We wouldn't.
When you listen to Eric Trump talk and that whole thing, he claims that Donald Trump's going to heaven because he's done all these things. He's saved people from death. And because he went through the issue at Butler. But here, Benny Johnson, who is a professing Christian, doesn't say anything. And it's easy to criticize, but I guess in essence, how would one respond to such a comments made? At the end of the day, I just would have preached Christ and saying, no, you don't get into heaven by good works. You aren't heaven bound by anything that you've done here on this earth. You're only heaven bound because the Son of God left heaven, humbled himself, became a servant, went to the cross, died in place of sinners, and Jesus Christ gives grace to sinners. And the only prerequisite is that we have to acknowledge that we have sinned against God, we have rebelled against God, that we've gone in an opposite direction, and there's nothing heaven bound within us. In fact, what is in us is hell bound. We're rebels against God, but God in his amazing love sends Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ bore the judgment of God in our place. And Christ Jesus gave life. He reconciles us back to God, and we simply have to just receive his amazing grace by faith. Again, just focusing upon Jesus. It's just very simple. His amazing grace. Just so many verses in the New Testament point us to God's amazing grace through Jesus Christ. That's what I would have talked about in that situation, instead of let Eric Trump go on and on and on about all the good that Donald Trump has done, and that's why he's going to heaven. Thanks for watching, and God bless.